Hello and welcome to Running Your Stories. In this episode we have Anne-Marie Lord along with us to have a chat about ultra running. Anne-Marie has completed more than 30 ultras over the past 10 or more years, is really experienced in the sport and has recently completed running across England, across Scotland and across Wales. Very accomplished runner. It's very interesting to talk to Anne-Marie, as she is being the inspiration behind a lot of other runners, especially ladies in the sport, either getting into ultra running or making huge progress thanks to Anne-Marie's help. But a very modest lady, always looking to help others and do what she can to inspire other people around her. So it was really lovely to get a chance to catch up with Anne-Marie. I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to what she has to say. Welcome, Anne-Marie. It's lovely to have you here. It's been very nice today to catch up over a few hours of a run.
Yeah, it was good today. Enjoyed it. It was a nice surprise, Fiona turning up as well.
Yeah, lovely to have Fiona along and actually having some sunshine as well.
I know.
That's
nice.
Probably the biggest surprise.
Yeah, nice after Easter Day.
Yeah, well, the last week has been a little bit damp out. Yeah. So, we've talked for a while, and I've been really interested to get you on and talk about your story, because I know that you're a vastly more experienced runner than I am, and that always makes me interested to talk to people, because I love hearing the stories and the experiences. And then I've also had great comments off people like Kim, who's been on the podcast and is a mutual friend of ours, about how much you've helped her progress in the sport and things. So I'm very excited to have you along, actually, Anne-Marie. So maybe we should start off talking a little bit about some of the things you do. I know things that you've done. I know the latest one was King Offa's Dyke.
Yeah.
Which is on your
t-shirt. The t-shirt,
there. Yeah. So should we start with that?
Yeah, that was about 7 weeks ago now. So it was one of my plans after I'd run across England a couple of years ago and then run across Scotland last year. I thought the most logical thing is to go running across Wales. And there was two choices. There was the Mark Cockbain one, the last Lons Ultra, or this one, which I knew was mainly off-road. So that's why I went for that one, which, so I weren't too sure whether I was going to make it to the end, but that's part of the adventure, isn't it? As you get on it and you just see what happens. Yeah.
So the event itself, what kind of distance are we talking about on this?
It sold as 185 mile with 30,000 foot of ascent. It ended up being about 195 over the route. But absolutely, a stunning route that crossed into England and Wales and sort of meandered up. And you're actually on Offa's Dyke, sometimes on the actual Dyke, following the route. So it's fantastic. The ascent really got to me. My feet were like pretty sore for about a week after. Mainly the balls of my feet because of the amount of climbing that you did, and then the rocky bit at the end because it's more rocky up North Wales than it is in South Wales. But yeah, fantastic. Me and Tony Brown stayed together the whole time. We had some ups and downs on the route, but I think we both helped each other. I'm not the easiest person on long distance. People who have been on long distance with me and supported me will know I go through ups and downs, and I'm quite an honest person, so I'll say what I feel. But that's me, and that's who I am. And I'm equally, if I go out with people on long distance, I respect where they're at, good or bad times, because I know what it feels like myself. But yeah, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I was really pleased that I'd met my goal, especially after January, where I didn't complete on the spine, and it was really a real big knock for me. That it took me a long while this year to sort of build my confidence back up again. But that Offa's Dyke did a lot to make me feel a lot better.
Yeah. If you don't mind, actually, we could jump on that point a little bit there, because it's not exactly where we said we'd segue into some other things, but I think it's a very interesting point, like you say, the building your confidence back up after the spine. Because I remember messaging you fairly soon after it, and I understand you had some other things going on in your life, and so not completing the spine was actually really nothing about running, nothing about your own running. It was just, as I understand, where you were at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
But then it's interesting, just now when you've mentioned that you had to build yourself back up to regaining your confidence to take on something like Offa's Dyke, that somebody with your experience and background and understanding how how these things affect you, and how the methods you can use to build them up, that sounds like it took a significant effort still.
It did, and I dropped out of the hard moors just when I was about 49 and I wanted to do 100 mile before I was 50. I dropped out of the hard moors 110, about 45 mile in, was really upset, went back to the hotel and booked on a race for the week after. Did the race, was fine, absolutely, but the spine, I don't know what it were about that, but I remember I weren't injured particularly, it was mainly about my mental state at the time that I just couldn't do it, and somebody said come to parkrun. I didn't want to go to parkrun. I felt embarrassed, and it was horrible, and people saying come on, and I was I can't face it, but I went to parkrun, and people were really kind, like they are, like, oh, it doesn't matter, you were at the start line, that's all that matters. And you've said it yourself, but when you're there, it don't mean a lot. And then the next race I did a 6 mile race, and I thought, please just finish it. And then when I did, I had to just do it like that, and it was weird just having to start. It felt like almost from the start again, and I know that was about just how I felt, and other people might not have seen it that way, but for me it was a massive blow for me, because I'd built up so much to it, and I felt like I'd just really let people down. A company had sponsored me as well and gave me some kit and stuff like that, and I just felt really like I'd really let people down, by not having what I felt at the time, a valid reason for not continuing. I weren't injured, I weren't sort of crawling along trying to get to the end. I just thought, I just can't do this. My mind just weren't there, just so negative. So yeah, it's been for me a real battle this year to sort of overcome that. So, and a bit strange, because like I say, I've dealt with negativity before, and I've seen other runners go through it and thought, oh, that might not happen, that won't happen to me, but it did. But I think the thing where I just got back on it, I just thought, right, do little things, let's build your confidence up, and just did it gradually. And and then Offa's Dyke, and it was great to finish. Because I thought, I don't want to go back. But yeah, it were fantastic. It really were, and but yeah, it was a real journey to it.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's like I say, everything that I've heard about you, Anne-Marie, from quite a lot of mutual friends, and everybody has so much admiration for you, because you've completed so many things, as you say, that can then start to become something of your identity.
Yeah.
I can understand why not completing something then it could feel like it's knocking your identity, really, and I think that's where it can be so deep. But no, I can quite honestly say nobody thinks of you any different when you have one problem race, one bad time.
Yeah,
it's.
I just think it was in your face for a week afterwards.
Well, yeah.
So that's what sort of rubs it in a bit more. You sat there watching the dots, thinking, God,
yeah,
it's not like it finishes in a day or something.
No, I was actually bitterly disappointed at the same time, because I'd done the Challenger, and my plan was to have a day or two rest and then volunteer on the checkpoints.
Yeah.
And I was too injured to walk properly.
Yeah.
So, and I had to drop out of volunteering on the checkpoints, and that was strange because kind of nobody notices. Nobody says anything.
I know.
If I was there, they'd be very, very happy I was helping on the checkpoints. But when you're not, it's kind of like, okay, so what?
Yeah.
But for myself, I was really disappointed with that.
And it is about how you feel, isn't it? And they don't notice if you're not there, because everybody's so. I think when you marshal on the spine, like I've done quite twice now, you're in that little bubble, aren't you?
Yeah.
And anything that's happening outside doesn't matter because you're just there, focused on getting them runners through, supporting them as much as you can, and doing a really good job, to see people through. So, it does become a little bubble. I do love that as well. That's why I love marshalling. But hopefully now that I haven't been on the Pennine Way yet. Can't quite face it, but maybe, you never know.
Yeah. But you're at least going to be checkpoint manager, I believe.
They're going to have two this time. So I'm at Hebden Hay with I think it's. I'm not sure if it's. I'm not sure who the other checkpoint manager is. So there's two of us together, and I'm gradually working up the course over the week, and that's great because I know loads of people on the spine now. So it'll be fantastic to see them come through and support them and. Give them food, not talk to them if they don't want to be spoken to, or talk to them if they do want to. You just got to be guided by how people feel. It's a tough race.
Yeah.
And people need what they need when they come in, and you just got to be guided by them.
Yeah, I'll generally want to be to talk to.
Yeah.
Because the Challenger this year, probably 33 of the 36 hours I was out there, I was on my own.
Yeah.
So when I came into the checkpoints, I was very happy to talk to people.
I know. It's and I think the spine itself, you got a bit more time, I think, at the checkpoints. But when I did race across Scotland, I did waste a lot of time in checkpoints chatting. And at one point, I think I was sort of 2 checkpoints from the end, and my long-suffering partner Ian said, "You need to get a move on." And I was like, "I'm all right. I've got till Tuesday." And he said, "It is Tuesday." I was like, "What? How did that happen?" Obviously I've been wasting time just doing general chats, but you haven't got the same time on these because they're obviously not as long as the spine. You haven't got that time. So that's one thing at Offa's Dyke is I use my time at the checkpoints, and I was very clear that when I come in, this is what I'd do, and I'd just get back out again. And I think that's what I'd do again on any sort of anything over 100 mile. I'll just get a move on.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be honest, I do that even more on anything under 100 miles. But it's something that's been coming for me as I've got more experience and talk to more people. Again, another person who's been on the podcast, Wouter, who's won the Spine Challenger, because he came from an adventure racing background. He's used to having checkpoints where you're changing from boats to bikes or whatever, and so he's ultra efficient in his checkpoints. And so I've been picking up tips from people like that, and certainly in the Lakeland 100 in the summer, first 2 checkpoints I just dibbed and went through. I had enough water that I could just go straight through some of the checkpoints, and there's even if you only spend 2 or 3 minutes in each, if I did that at least probably 4 of the checkpoints in the race that I just dibbed and went through.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
It soon starts taking time off. I probably took it a little bit too far. I was probably carrying a little bit too much water. It's heavy, but it's definitely, especially on a race like that where there's so many people in and out of the first checkpoint. It's so busy there. Yeah. That the quicker you can get out, because otherwise you're seeing somebody and saying hello, and another couple of seconds disappears, and
time ticks on very quickly.
Yeah, it does. So yeah, I think it's definitely, like you say, use the checkpoints, do what you need to do, and get out of there. Yeah, definitely. I've also progressed onto a lot of coming out of checkpoints with food and drink in my hands and eating on the move. Because if you're walking along eating, you're still making progress.
Yeah, that's it. You're one
Whereas
step
if you're sitting
closer.
still eating, you're not making any progress.
No, definitely not. But yeah, that's one thing that we both agreed on, that we wouldn't spend any sort of significant time at checkpoints. We'd just get a move on and get out and just do what we needed to do. And it does work well. That I think it's far better, because the longer you spend there, the harder it is to go back out. But I think I know, and when I did the race across Scotland, I'd gone past a checkpoint and I had to go back. They said, no, you have to go back. I had to go back about 3 miles. And when I got in the checkpoint, I was just so fed up. And one of the women who was there, who was one of the volunteers, thought she's not going to make it, because I was a bit fed up. Anyway, I stayed for a couple of hours and thought, no, I'm not staying anymore. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. It was freezing, but it was lovely, and I just went out. And when she saw me coming to the end of the race, she drove over to meet me, and she just said, I've come to meet you because I thought at that checkpoint there you weren't going to make it, because I was a bit fed up. But that was really nice, because I didn't realise how naffed off I was coming back, having gone past a bloody checkpoint. But anyway, that's what ultra running is about, and it's about overcoming them times and thinking, right, okay, that's been bad, but I just got to crack on now, because the end goal is, this is what I want to do. And then in between, making the most of what you're seeing around you, and I know the England one, which race across England, because it was on the Trans-Pennine Trail, you saw a lot of people, and it gave me faith back in humanity, that race, because people were so kind and so nice. I ended that race and just felt sort of more positive about humankind more. So you take something from everything you do, don't you? You learn something or something. You see beautiful places, you think, oh my God, nobody be here and see this unless I was doing this race. So there's always something you take away from it that only enhances you, I think, as a person, and you sort of the way you look at life as well, and the way you approach life in general.
Yeah, definitely. As you say, it's that the kindness that people show to you, and then as we were chatting about while we've been out running, then having the chance to go and volunteer on a race and give some of that back to the other people. And I was, really unexpected, very nice to receive. One of the ladies from the White Rose 100 from last weekend wrote a big thank you on Facebook for saying that I'd helped. And all I'd done, I was on a checkpoint at about 6 or 7 in the morning or something when she came through, and she had a friend sort of running with her, and I filled one of the bottles up, and I said, hold on a minute, why are you waiting for your bottles? Just continue up the track, I'll fill them and run after you with them. I'll easily catch you up. And so then I did that, and I helped them carry the bag back to the car. And it's just little things, but it makes a difference, and it's so nice being on both ends of that kind of just simple little acts of kindness.
Definitely. Definitely. I never used to marshal. I used to marshal at parkrun and things like that. But now that I've done like 7 days, like on the Spine, and I did 8 days on Dragon's Back. I was part of the catering team on there. It was hard work, but I don't know, there's just something, you appreciate what goes into a race then.
Yes.
All the crew that are there, that, they give the time for nothing. It really makes you appreciate what goes into these races when you're running them, because sometimes you forget about that.
Yeah.
About, people are there using their time to make your experience good. So I thought, well, I want to give a bit back, because I've been doing ultras since 2013 now, and I've done a lot. But then sometimes...
Do you know how many?
I think it's about 30 odd now, ultras, from, the first one I did, which was 30 mile. I don't think I've ever done a 30 mile since, right up to 200, And I think about this 2015, I tried to do 6 ultras and 6 marathons in the year. I did the 6 ultras, got to the 4th marathon and ended up getting injured on Snowdonia. But we're nearly there. Just one of them things. But what you got to overcome as well a lot of the time is people saying, oh, you're going to fall in bits, you know, your knees are going to go, your hips are going to go, your head's going to fall off. You know, all that negativity that you get from people who don't understand and don't appreciate what the human body and the human mind is capable of. That seems to have got less over the years, but initially I was bombarded with that quite a lot, and had to keep thinking, well, you know, is there a bit of element in truth? Because there's always somebody, you know, isn't there, with a bad knee and bad this. And now I've learned, actually, your body is pretty capable of a lot more than what you think it is. Yeah. Male or female. And just because you push it beyond them limits doesn't make it bad. It's just, I don't know, but it has changed that. It has changed over the last few years. People are more interested in what you do rather than trying to say, oh God, you're going to, you know, wait till you're older, your knees will be bad, this will be bad. And, you know, when you have them hallucinations, they might stay and you become psychotic. Which hasn't happened, I hope. Or somebody would tell me, I'm pretty sure if I had. But yeah, so it's been interesting how that change has happened. But I think that's because you've got to be out there doing it, haven't you, to show, and then people seeing you after and seeing that them things haven't happened to you. Yeah.
And to be honest, one of the things that I sort of personally admire about you is actually the fact that you're not fast. And that's going to sound a bit strange, but I think it's quite easy if somebody is fast and they're at the front end to be motivated to go and push harder and do the next race, and to see somebody taking part in these things for the joy of doing them. And that's again, I don't want this to come across the wrong way. I don't want to do you any disservice. I think, you know, the physical achievements of what you've done is phenomenal, and I also happen to know, because you told me incidentally earlier, that how many first place lady park runs have you got?
Oh yeah,
over 100, I think you said.
110, but like I said, so that's not being fast though.
No,
that's
but
pacing myself.
Exactly, but so you know, I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to call you slow, but I admire the fact that you do pace yourself, and you really it's completing the things and making sure you complete them and make sure that you continue to be able to do the next event and the next event. And again, I'm inclined to call them events rather than races, because and I think that's really good.
I've had I mean, I could, if you chose some of the low-key races, you know, and I've done more low-key, like 50 miles, I've come in the top 3 women. But then these bigger events, I'm not bothered about where I come. In terms, I mean, the race across England, I was 5th lady on that, but I think there were only about 6, 7 finished. And then on Scotland, I think I was 5th lady again. But then there were only 27 finishers. So for me, it's not about where I come, 5th, 3rd, whatever. It's about I'm in that cohort that's got to the end. Yes. And I think so many dropouts on these long distance, just finishing is an achievement. And some, you know, I see people up there. I'm usually about top end of the middle of the pack. I'm normally around there. So I'm quite happy with that, but I think the key is getting to the end, isn't it? And showing that you've got that endurance and that mental strength to push past some of the hard bits. But then there's some absolutely fantastic bits, some adventures, some things you look back on and say, God, do you remember that, when that happened? And chased by rabid horses and stuff like that. All the sort of things that happen when you're out in the countryside, that you just never know what's going to happen over 4 or 5 days, do you? You just don't know what's going to happen. And most of these routes that I've done, I never wreck them, because I like that sense of not knowing what's coming. Because if I've been on them and I've gone on a bit that's horrible, that'll play on my mind. So most of the time, King Offa's Dyke, I have never been on any of that before. So it's all new to me. And I like that. I like that sort of, I know people recce bits. It's not for me, that. I prefer just to get on it and find my way.
Yeah, I think, again, that's something of the difference between going on there as a race to go as fast as you can, in which case a recce is going to help you be faster, versus going on something which is more of a challenge event to have an adventure.
Yeah,
you're definitely going to have more of an adventure when you haven't recce'd it.
Yeah. If I wanted to go faster, then I would go and recce. If I was thinking, right, I want to get a good place on this, and I want to go as fast as I can, I'd go and recce it, obviously, because that'd help. But on most of them, I like that challenge of not knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
Seeing what's going to happen, just finding somewhere new. I like that, and I think even when I first started running ultras, because I were going all over the place running them, I'd never been before. So I just like standing on that start line thinking, right, I wonder what's going to come now. You know, what am I going to see? What's going to be here?
I started off sort of heavily recceing things from a confidence point of view, of being confident that I knew what was coming and I knew that I could do it. But as I've got more confident, I ran the Lakeland 100 in July. I hadn't recceed a single step of the route ahead of it, and it's the first time I've gone into an air race totally unrecceed, because the Hardmoor 60 that I'd done the year before, I'd recceed the end of it, which was if you're only going to recce one bit, the end's definitely a good idea.
Oh yeah, I've done Hardmoor 60. It's belting.
And it's a great race, but I actually really enjoyed a lot of the parts that I hadn't recceed, and that's what started to give me confidence that you don't necessarily need to recce everything.
It's a beautiful route though, the Hardmoor 60. I love it. I love the coast. But I did that a few years ago. I think I were about for a fourth or fifth lady on that when I did that. So I think I've usually come second or third at first, on the 50 milers, and the Lady Bower 50, I came first lady on that the second year I did it. But that was like a bit of a strategy that I'd gone in to try and be as quick as I could. I didn't expect to be first lady, but it just so happened that I was. But I've come like second and third on some of the 50 miles when I first did it. But getting a bit older now, and my priorities have changed a bit. So I just see what I can do. If I get a good place, then it's a bonus. If I don't and I finish, that's great too. So and I get the experience, and I like that more. Just not knowing what's coming and finding your way, doing a bit of the navigation. I like all that. So that's what I've found that I enjoy more than actually thinking, I want to be high up. Because I think me and Tony were like, there was a guy behind us who was last, and I didn't know he was there because I was quite happy to be last. I weren't bothered. But I think there were just us two in front of him. So, but the fact we were a small number of people who finished. So I was pleased, very pleased with that. So I've been pleased with it. I'd never even heard of like 200-mile races before, but it just shows what you can do if you put your mind to it. Yeah.
So how do you manage with the sleep on a 200-mile race?
I've been learning about sleep. It weren't too bad. The England one weren't too bad. I managed it, funnily enough, a lot better on that, but I think it was different terrain because it was quite flat really, so it weren't particularly, even though it was 200 mile, it weren't massively taxing on you in terms of sleep. But the Scotland one, didn't manage it very well there. I had quite a lot of hallucinations on Scotland, and then I had some of them micro sleeps as well, which were just they were pretty scary then, and I was quite disorientated when I had them. And luckily there was a girl with me are laying wild. And she got me through that because I kept thinking I was in Allenworth Lake. And I was saying, why am I in Allenworth Lake at night? And she said, you're not, you're on a race in Scotland. And half my brain was saying, yeah, you're on a race in Scotland. The other half was saying, you're in Allenworth Lake, why are you there? So she said, look, I'll walk in front of you. It was night time. And she would all had these like little lights on her which was skipping around. And I just remember going behind her, just going, follow the imp, which was just what I could think of at the time. And as the light come up, it sort of faded a bit, but I suffered really bad with them there. And I thought, on Offa's Dyke, I am not going to do that. So when I felt them coming on and I started to see things, I see things in the trees.
Yeah.
I thought, I've got to get some sleep because I don't want them micro sleeps to happen again. So I managed it a lot better on there. But again, when you're with somebody else, it's difficult because if you're on your own, you just stop. So when I had them micro sleeps in Scotland, it was throwing it down. We had nowhere particularly to shelter. We were up this sort of mountain thing. And I just thought, I'm just going to lie down. I've got all my waterproofs on, I'm just going to get some sleep, otherwise I'm not going to be able to function. So we just slept at the side of the track. And then when it was hot as well, I slept at the side of the track, but occasionally people would come past and sort of wake you up in case they thought you were dead or something.
I had that from the spine safety team. In the spine, if you're stopping for less than an hour, so you don't need to call in. If you're going to stop for more than an hour,
you have to call in.
So I was stopping in a bus shelter, which is right on the route, for 15 minutes. So I thought, that's fine, I don't need to call that in. Just about, I'd set 2 alarms to make sure I'd wake up. Just about going to sleep, safety team prod. Are you alright there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. It just happened that they were just around the corner and they saw my
that you'd stopped.
And they thought I'd come and see if I was okay, which was very nice of them, but they were obviously bored.
I know, and it's interesting about sort of sleeping in place because I did that escape from Holt. I had escaped from Great Britain from Holt Whistle and ended up linking up with a guy called Craig, and we found these brilliant bus shelters in Yorkshire. They were excellent and really good to sleep in, and you just think, I was telling some of my friends at work and they were like thinking, God, somebody who's 50 odd year old just sleeping in bus shelters randomly. But it was great, it was absolutely great, and they were really nice. I took some photos of them bus shelters, they're all decorated and yeah, it's funny the places you find to sleep when you're out and about. But other than that, now I know I try and get even just 90 minutes seems to be enough just to see you through. You don't have to sleep for hours and hours, but a 90-minute really good sort of bit of sleep will keep you going. Even if you just lay down and shut your eyes for a bit, it'll help.
Yeah.
So that's the way I manage it. I'm not bothered about sleeping hours and hours. It doesn't bother me because I know once I've finished the race I can sleep as much as I want. And when I finish a race, when I go home, if I want to sleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll sleep. I'll just let my body do. If I want to eat, I'll eat when I'm hungry. I'll sleep when I'm tired. I'll take the time off work to let my body just do what it wants to do and listen to how it feels, and that seems to help my recovery. So, yeah, it's just, and again, on long distance, again, it's about listening to your body, isn't it? If you're tired, don't push it. If you feel you can push it a bit more, but when you get aches and pains, it's going to hurt. No, everybody says, well, does it hurt doing 100? Of course it hurts. It hurts a lot. But as long as it's that hurt that you can you just sort of monitor it from afar, don't you? You know it's hurting. Keeping an eye on it, but it's not hurting enough to stop. So,
yeah, I've started playing games with the pains. If you've got a pain in your leg, think, well, if I land my foot differently, does it change the pain?
Yeah. And
just kind of playing around with it, and try and move myself away from the any yes or no questions. Does it hurt too much? Does it not hurt too much? I don't want to ask that question. I want to say, well, is it something really, really serious that's going to stop me? Is it something that is going to slow me down, or is it something I can just completely ignore? And give it 3 options, and it helps me be more logical about the decision making, rather than trying to pigeonhole it too much into yes or no kind of things.
I just monitor it from afar. I'm aware of it, and it's in the back of my mind. So I know it's hurting, but I know that's just part and parcel of it is going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, the hurt's just a data stream coming from that location up to your brain, and like you say, that you can monitor that data stream and consider, well, what does it mean or what doesn't it mean? Again, it's through experience of being overwhelmed by the pain in my first spine challenger, where I just let it get completely on top of me, and you know, and I thought, no, I don't want to do that again.
No, you can focus on it and that. But I've been lucky that when I've done these ultras, I've met some amazing people, and I've learned from them as I've gone along, you know, and they've told me things like, oh, is it hurting? Well, that'll pass. You know, are you feeling bad? That'll pass. This is what happens, you know, and that's been a brilliant learning curve for me. It's not just me learning from running, it's me learning from, you know, more experienced runners like Kirsty Reid. I'll never forget her on the second ultra I did, and she taught me a lot, and then she helped me out over a couple of years. She's always been, when I did a 24-hour race and she ran it and I was saying, I'm tired, she said, push through, when the sun comes up you'll feel a lot better. And I was like, right, okay, and it were right. It were, as soon as the sun come up I felt great. But if I'd have just listened to myself then I'd have stopped. But she just happened to come past at that time. So, God, you know, you meet some amazing people, honestly, and all credit to them to where I am now. I've learned from them and took on board, you know, if something has worked for them, I've thought, right, yeah, I'll do that on my next one. And hopefully I've done the same for other people, you know, who've been...
I know you have, because I've been getting messages off people when they knew you were coming on the podcast saying, oh yeah, you've got to talk to Anne-Marie, she's been instrumental in my progress in ultra running.
I really wanted women to get, because when I started I knew there were women running, but from where I lived I've never really met anybody doing it, and I just think it's great that you know, I've supported anybody, male or female, I'm not bothered, but for women particularly, sometimes they do feel restricted about what they can do. There's lots of restrictions, there's family, there's the fact that you think can't do it, you can't commit the time to it. But yeah, if people have wanted to do it, I've invested time in people to do it, and it gives me something seeing people achieve the goals. You know, I took a lot of people around the Oldham Way, and then I marshalled on the Oldham Way to see him, and I was at the end to see him come through, and that was brilliant, because I thought, I feel like I've been part of that journey for him. Yeah. And for me, that gives me a real buzz, and just seeing them, how pleased they are, because it's a real... People might think, oh, it's only running, but it isn't. It's a mega challenge, isn't it, for people, and they just... I just love seeing people achieve the goals, so... That's what got me into coaching. I used to coach with Oldham and Wrighton, and then I run a track session for quite a while. And I've took a bit of a break from that now, because I felt like I've just needed a little bit of my own headspace. But yeah, I still love being part of people's journeys, because I know how much it was. You know, people are in part of mine. So yeah. So,
what have you seen about? I guess, so what do you see as the barriers for women getting into it, as opposed, you know, the difference in barriers for women compared to men getting into ultra running, I guess, in particular?
Yeah. But I think sometimes it's people thinking, again, they listen to the naysayers, you know, about, you know, your knees will be bad, this will happen to you. So there's an element of that, because, you know, and I think people have work commitments, think I can't do the training, it's a bad enough training for a marathon, training for an ultra is even worse, and actually it isn't, you know, if you manage it properly. So it's about, sometimes they've got training plans, and from like people who haven't done ultras, and then they'll contact me and say, what do you think of this? And I think, well, actually you can do that a little bit differently. Let's look at what you've got, what time you've got, and how you can construct it. Some of it's about people frightened of running overnight, and that's a big thing I've found with women, that they're frightened at night time of being up on the moors on your own. but they're putting what might happen in a town centre to what might happen up there. So they're like, oh, you know, what if there's somebody hiding in the bushes? Highly unlikely. What if I get injured? But you're normally on a tracker, aren't you? So you've got that element of safety there. And one thing that I'll do with people is take them out at night on the tops with a red torch on and show them, you know, that they can do that. So there's lots of little barriers like that. Obviously there's family, there's work commitments, but that's for men as well. But I think some of it is that overcoming. Most women have been frightened at night time, from my experience. They've said, oh, I've never run at night, I'm frightened of running with my head torch on. What if I fall? What if this happens? Because, you know, you've got a lot of things you've got to do when you get back home. So for me, that's been my experience of women not getting into it, just thinking, I just can't do it. I couldn't keep going that long. You know, not thinking that men are stronger. Men are stronger. There's no doubt about it. But we're seeing now women achieving massive things.
I was going to say, I think people have different strengths.
They do. And I think women have got more endurance when they get older. They might not have the same speed, but there's a lot. I tell you, I've moved into the age 50 category now, and I tell you what, there's some fast women out there that are absolutely amazing. So I see them on runs, you know, and I'm women older than that, in the 60s. Absolutely brilliant. But I just think, I think that's been the things that I've picked up on, is just that fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just about getting people out there and pushing. And just thinking it's another marathon where they have to run really fast all the time. And you don't. It's, you know, as you know, part of my training is hiking as well now, which has been quite hard for me to transfer over to, because it was only since Ronnie started training me that I started doing hiking. And I remember the first time I went out hiking, I said, oh God, what if somebody sees me? They'll think there's something wrong. You know, but now I'm quite comfortable with it. But it took a bit of time for me to change from running all the time to actually incorporating hiking into my training. But I think it's been great.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good thing, and something I don't do enough of, and I know I don't. And what I find then in a race, you know, 100-mile kind of distance, where you inevitably end up hiking big chunks of it, is that I've got the muscle strength there, but I haven't necessarily, those muscles haven't been through that kind of long-term kind of pounding that you get. And so it's another area of weakness if you don't work at it. And so I definitely agree that because you can become a very efficient hiker, as we all often talk about, some of the people like from Long Distance Walkers Association and things who are just walking the 100 miles can beat a lot of runners just by being very efficient and just keeping going at a really steady pace. And so if you can mix that in with running on top of that, then you can be, you know, really up towards the front end of the pack without any sort of real athletic ability. It's just making best use of what you've got, because that's one of the things that I know I can hike pretty fast, especially uphill. I'm terrible at running up hills, but I can hike up hills pretty fast, and that's, I think, that's what pushes me towards the 100-mile, and now I'm going to try the longer distance. Is because that's when it really comes in. With shorter things, you're under a lot of pressure to get up the hills even faster, and I think it suits me less. But so I guess it's one of the questions sort of coming around to is, as you've moved up to these events that are closer to 200 miles than 100 miles, is that something you've done just to see if you can to extend the challenge to reach the next level, or?
Yeah, I just like the sort of challenge of it, really. Yeah, I think I do, and I remember I wanted to do that race across England the first year they did it, but I never managed to get on it. But then I supported Colin Green at the end, the last 26 miles. And just seeing what he'd been through and what other people had been through, I just thought, God, that looks great.
It's a funny thing, that, isn't it? Seeing, because I've had exactly the same thoughts. You see the pain and suffering that somebody's gone through to achieve something, and from what you've just said, it's the same as me. You see someone go through it and achieve something, you think, I want some of that.
Yeah,
and
it's weird.
It's
almost like
yeah.
Bit of self-harm, as they say, but I don't think it is.
No,
it is something. It's seeing Colin at the end. I think brilliant.
Yeah, I think it adds so much value to the achievement.
Yeah,
I think is what it is. You can see that achievement is so valuable because you can only achieve it by going through that. It's something like that. It makes me think. Yeah, I also want to achieve that, and I realise I'm going to have to go through that much to get it.
It's how it makes your body feel and everything, because your body responds to it and it feels different all the time. And just when you know your body feels that certain feeling when you're pushing it to the limit, and there's just something about that where you know that you're doing it and you're overcoming it. There's something about that that's really. And I think it's just being out there, and I remember that year I did that race across England. I remember putting a bit of a blog on Facebook afterwards and saying that song, "It's a Wonderful World," and they talk about seeing the blue sky and the dark blessed night, and that's exactly it. That's it. And that song so resonates with me because I just think I've done that. I've been out there in the night on my own, and it still makes me feel quite emotional now thinking about it, because it is just absolutely amazing, and you're just so at one with what's around you. And when do you get that in life? You never do.
No.
You never get that in life. And just being out there, and you don't care about what's going on in the news. You're not thinking about the shopping, work. You're just there in nature, the elements, and just everything around you. I just love it. I just absolutely love that feeling. And I think it's really therapeutic for me. And it is, even when I think about it now, I just think, I just absolutely love it. Just love that feeling. I'm being a little bit scared sometimes, but then just thinking, I've got to keep going. It's great. Yeah, there's nothing like it. Some people might find it a bit weird, but yeah, it's great. And I still feel a bit emotional about it when I think about it, because it is. I can sort of still see it, in my mind's eye, just being out there with all the stars and the hills and no light but yours, and occasionally you'll switch your light off and just think, my God, look at this. It's just spectacular.
Yeah, I think it is, without talking about this in a religious way, but I think it is spiritual.
Yeah.
It's that side of feelings, really. It's really very special.
It is, and I think when I first met Ronnie, who coaches me now, he asked me why I do stuff, and it is for that reason. And he was saying it's nice to hear somebody talk about it in that way, rather than say, I want to be up front, I want to be winning, I want to be doing that. And that, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. If you're up front and you can do that, then go for it, because that gives you your own positive feeling about a race. But for other people, further on back, you've got to focus on something else. If you're not up there at the front winning, then what's your motivation to do it? And there's got to be something there that says, and it's different for everybody. Everybody will have different motivations, but everybody's will be different. But definitely for me is just that feeling of being out there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'm just making a quick note for when we get later on. So I'm just glancing at a few questions that my friend Anna sent through, which was very nice of her. So yeah, we've talked about the barriers of women getting into ultra running, and she also asked, and I know because you told me a little earlier that it's not a big problem for you, but she says many women suffer from nausea more than men, and you mentioned to me that you probably don't suffer from it too badly because you found what works for you. So maybe you could describe what works for you, because if somebody hasn't tried it.
Yeah, so. I know what. I'm very sort of routine driven, me, and my family will tell you that what I'm like. And I know what works for me, what food, and it's took a long time to get there. I'll get that horrible sloshy thing where things feel like they're just not digesting. It's horrible, that. But actual nausea I've never ever suffered from. I've been very lucky. But for me, I'd spoke to a very well-known ultra runner when I first started, because I always ask people stuff. If people are willing to tell you stuff, then listen to them who've done it before. And he said to me, make sure you have a bite of something every 5 mile. And I do that on every single race. Every 5 mile, I'll get a bar out. I'll only have one bite of it, but I'll have a bite, a bit of a drink, and carry on. That seems to work really well for me. So it keeps my nutrition up, and then I'll have proper meals. But I like wraps with like cheese spread on. They're quite hard to eat sometimes, but I find them that they don't sit too heavy on the stomach. A bit of pasta, if I can have that at the checkpoint. I'll see what there is at the checkpoint. But in between, that sort of having that little bit of something to eat seems to work. I love crisp butties at night. I did make a mistake once of making them prior to going out, and then when they were like
nice
rubber,
and soggy, yeah.
So never again. But I do like crisp butties, and that seems to give me my salts back. And I do have the little salt sticks as well, which seems to help. So I've got that combination of things. So I keep like bars here, have a munch, and that seems to work. So I haven't suffered from any sickness or anything. I've been really lucky. But I know a lot of people who do. I think sometimes when you're pushing really hard, you get sick as well.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to add as well. Is for me, by slowing down just a tiny bit, especially at the start of a race, it can stop me going into that kind of sickness, and then it's actually easier to speed up towards the end. Whereas if I've gone out too fast, I can start feeling sick. Say it's a 100-mile race, I could start feeling sick at mile 20 or 30. You've got a long way to go then, trying to bring yourself out of that to sort yourself out again. Because I do think it is partly related to the work rate. So I do a lot of my training based around heart rate and perceived effort. But once I start to learn what my heart rate feels like, then I can switch it onto a slightly more natural way of doing it, rather than pace. Because as you've seen when we've been out around here, it's quite hilly around here. If you try to do anything on pace, the amount of effort you're putting in is jumping up and down. And so I'm trying to have my cardio at a level where I'm just maintaining a low effort all the time, and just adjust my pace to maintain a sort of steady ticking away kind of effort. And I find that makes a big difference on the stomach as well. I've ended up changing food, and I don't know, still don't quite know if I'm there yet, but I've got through a couple of races without having issues, so maybe I'm there.
Yeah, I do get stomach ache and everything on races, and it's horrible when you get it. But I think, you are hammering your body, aren't you?
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that things are gonna happen to you over that period of time, particularly when you're over 3 or 4 days. But it's just part and parcel. You just got to recognise your body's going to respond to you pushing it through them limits. So you just got to deal with that. So I have some, if my stomach's really bad, then I can take something just to ease it off. But luckily it's never been nausea. I've managed to manage that. I'm really lucky, really.
Yeah. So another question here that Anna asked, which I already know the answer to, especially because we've just been out together, but she's just bringing up the topic of poles, which I know you like using poles.
Yeah, I do.
And I like using poles, but again, it's worth sharing with people because actually exactly what you told me earlier. If you don't practice with them.
Yeah, they feel clumsy and awkward and people don't like them. I can run with poles. I'm quite comfortable running with them. I wouldn't use them on a short distance, and probably not even on a 50 mile or something like that. But and when I've done 24 hours, I've only used them at night if I'm a bit unsteady on my feet. They tend to keep me on my feet. I've been through periods of times where I've tripped over quite a bit. And you know, when you're 50 rolling down hills, it's not like things you want to keep repeating. And I've really, you know, I have fell over quite a lot, but I do find at night times they just keep me on my feet more than actually propel me along. It's more about catching myself. But yeah, I've learned to use them over a long period of time now, and I'm comfortable walking with them, comfortable running with them. But it's used over long distance, and for me, it just gives me that. It's about, I don't know how many times I've tripped when I've been tired, and they've just caught me, you know, from falling, and that can make a difference between your race ending.
Yes.
At that time, you could really hurt yourself on some of them rocky terrain. But I know people call them cheat sticks. Some people don't like them. Well, that's up to them. They don't use them then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole calling them cheat sticks thing is back to some of what we started from talking about. If people just being negative and putting things down and say, oh, you're going to be injured and this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And I think whenever people are saying any of those kinds of things, to me it's just a reflection of their own negativity or other problems going on in their life. And it's, generally speaking, got nothing at all to do with whatever it is that they're talking about at the time. But it's not easy when you hear those things.
No. I just ignore them now. I don't care.
Yeah.
And when we did, I did the Thunder Run as a pair with, I told you that picture of Mel where I was hugging her, and it was the first time she'd done an ultra. That weekend was absolutely shocking. I mean, it was just like a mud bath. But I'll tell you what, me and Mel, we had our poles, and people at first were saying, oh, look at you with the poles. I'll tell you what, they wanted them after. Because nobody could stay on their feet, but we were okay. We got round and we did really well. I think if we'd have pushed on a little bit more, I think we'd have been second or third pair. But as it were, you know, we didn't. So we came fourth, I think, which was great. It was Mel's first ever long distance that she'd done. But I think some people actually went home sort of mid-race because it was that bad.
Yeah.
But we kept going. So, you know, yeah, I mean, like, for example, on the West Island Way, you're not allowed to use poles because it's part of the Scottish athletics rules. So that's fine, you know. You don't use them. I was absolutely, I tripped up on the second one I did, but I still finished with a knee that big, which I wouldn't recommend. But 30 mile with a massive knee is not nice. But the first year I did it, you know, I didn't have poles then, it was fine. I don't mind not using them, but if they're there, then yeah, why not? If it keeps you going over a long distance, keeps you on your feet. And it just, each to their own, isn't it, really?
Yes.
I think most of the spiners use poles, don't they, from what I've seen, over that long distance.
Yeah, I think so. And even on the Challenger, the first year I did it as I was coming into checkpoint 1.5 at Malham Tarn.
Oh, yeah.
I was struggling and going very slow, and I was leaning on my poles.
Yeah.
And there was a lady who I was kind of catching up to who had really bad stomach problems, and she didn't have poles, because if she didn't have problems, she'd have been fine without them.
Yeah.
But as soon as she started to have problems and she didn't have poles, she was much slower. I'd say that her and I probably had an equal level of problems, but I was able to move significantly faster because I had the poles to lean on and push myself a bit with, and it just gives you another option. So it's not only your 2 legs, you've also got these 2 other strange appendages, and that's why I'm like today when we went out, I took mine just to keep practicing with them, because I don't think I've got well, hopefully I've got more than 50 miles in my arms now, but you know, I need to get that to be at least a third of the 268 miles by January.
Gosh, it's a massive challenge, massive. And all respect to people who do it, you know, it is a massive challenge. And, you know, poles or no poles, the challenge in the time of the year, the terrain, everything, you know, so it's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And all respect to people who do it, I must admit. But I'll be there supporting people to get through. With everybody else, there's a massive team behind it, it's huge. And all the volunteers I've met on the Spine are they're just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So, you got a good team all the way up.
Yeah, I know quite a few people on the team now as well.
Yeah.
They've been the 3rd year of being involved with the event, and different people that I know that are volunteering and things. So it's going to be good. So maybe a way of sort of wrapping up and summarising some of the interesting things that have come out here, which is why I made my notes earlier, is just to kind of come back to the question of, because what you described is really driving you to want to get out on these events, that feeling of sort of being out there. That's a very similar thing for me, and like you said, there's not many people sort of say that as being the reason. Just a few weeks ago when I was out with a mutual friend of ours, and it had been horrendous weather, hammering it down, and we just got a little bit of kind of clear weather, and it was you were just able to kind of lift your head up under your hood, and actually put your hood down for 10 minutes and just breathe, you know, just actually look around for the first time, and I just said, you know, isn't this what it's all about? Just you know, being able, just like you say, being out there, out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. I think at that time it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning or something at that point. We'd started at 8 o'clock at night. We were going through the night just for fun.
You do.
And it's like, it's just, like I say, just brilliant, just being out there like that. So I guess as a way of wrapping up, do you have any thoughts about, you know, how can we encourage or facilitate other people to gain that, to have that experience? I
think it's just being like going out there and doing it yourself, for one. Other people seeing other people achieve it, and you know, it's weird, isn't it, this sort of thing, because you sort of move in these circles, don't you, where you meet other ultra runners, but then you go to things like parkrun, or you go to 10Ks and you speak to people there, like I'm a member of a club, and I've seen people who have very, you know, they've been doing 10Ks and stuff, and then they suddenly want to move into this ultra running, and it's about saying, come on, you know, we can do it, giving them the advice, being supportive, being positive about, but also being realistic. You know, it might not be nice, but I'll tell you what, the sense of achievement after when you've done it. I think ultra running is becoming quite big at the moment, isn't it? There seems to be loads of people doing it. I don't know. It's a weird one, that, because some people are quite happy to do just the events that are out there that are very popular, like half marathons, marathons. I think you have to really want to sort of step outside that, don't you? And try a bit more. But I think just doing it, just being out there, doing it, posting on sites about what you've done, about the positives of it, seeing blogs, seeing people, normal people achieve, not just the big fast runners at the front, because we all know who they are. When you can see a race, you think you know who's going to be up the top unless something goes horribly wrong. But seeing the other people,
that's what we hope for, isn't it? So we can.
No. You see, you know who's going to be, who's out there to compete, and that's their business, and it's really, I love it, you know, seeing people achieve. But yeah, I think it's other people, just seeing normal, everyday people who've just got a life like them, going out and doing something different, and then they think, my God, you know, I might be able to do that. And it's not just, like you said, just about running, it's about anything. And as we spoke before, when we first sort of we're going to speak about this, I've done some talks with women's groups and things like that, and even though they've asked me to talk about running in particular and what I've done, I think the main focus for me is saying to them particular groups, they were quite disempowered women, is saying, don't let anybody tell you can't do something. You know, if you've got the motivation to do it and you think, I'm going to do this, why not just give it a try? You know, there's nothing wrong with stepping out of the box. If people, you know, if I had not stepped out of the box, then what would I be doing now? I don't know. My life could have been very different. I've had to do a lot of changes over the year. I lost a lot of weight before I started running, lost 7.5 stone, and then I had to find something else to do in my life, and I would never have imagined 10 years ago, I don't think I'd even ever heard of running across countries and stuff like that. But you know, you never know what's going to happen. So, you know, never say never, and make sure you've always got something to aspire to, a dream, and if it's a dream, bloody work towards it, try and do it. Don't think it's impossible. You can always find ways, can't you, to do things. And just look at other people that are doing stuff, like, you know, you've had Shelley on here and Kimmy, and you can see what people can achieve if they want to do it. So for me, that's the message out there. And there's a lot of women out there doing amazing things, not just running. A lot of men are doing amazing things. Never think it can't be you, because you don't know till you try.
Well, I think that's a brilliant way to sum it, actually, that last sentence. Never think that it can't be you, because you don't know till you try. Yeah, and that's really good. The only thing I'd add to that I'm learning is that, and it's something that's probably quite relevant in today's society. It can be you, but sometimes you need to remember the realistic element is it might take you 5 or 10 years to get there. And you know, sometimes you need to be committed for you know, a long-term commitment, and how far you get step by step. Definitely. Some people are really lucky and they can jump leaps forward in 12 months or something. But if something's worth doing, it's worth persevering. It is. And I think when I was at parkrun yesterday, there was it's not running related, but she wants to go into a different career, into care. And she was saying, well, you work in social care, but I tell you, it's took me, alright, I'm in a sort of manager's position now, but it took me 20 years. Yes. This hasn't come easy, and nothing worth doing comes easy. No. You got to work at it, but the working at it is a fun bit. Yeah, that's where you learn new things. It's that journey, the working at it, the learning, the developing, the going to do something and thinking, okay, that didn't go the way I expected it to go, the way I wanted it to go. What can I learn from that, and go on to either do that event again or do another similar event in the future, or realise that actually that's not the type of event for me. I'm going to go and try something different now. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So that's the fun bit, isn't it? Is the learning bit and the building up to it, learning what shoes suit you, what kit you need to wear, where you need to put Vaseline on in the future. You know, all them little things that
You know, you learn either the hard way or, you know, you learn off other people. So yeah, that's the fun bit, and it isn't, no, you know, if things come easy to you, it's not a challenge then, is it?
No.
That's, you know, you don't just wake up one morning and think, oh, I'm going to run a marathon. Some people might be able to, but you have to work at it. And that's the sense of achievement you get, because you know you've put that effort in, you know that's the outcome. But yeah, it doesn't, but that, like, again, it doesn't mean it can't be you. It's just, have you got that determination and commitment to do it? And if you have, you'll find a way around.
Yep.
And it's not making it onerous and horrible, it's about enjoying it. And I go out some mornings running and I just feel great. I just think, oh, it's just for work, and actually I smile to myself, I think, oh, this is great. And then when I get home, I think, not worry about that. Made me feel like that, but I do. Some days I think, oh God, I can't wait to get home. But most times I'm not. You just get that rush of endorphin. I just like, oh, this is nice.
Yep. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Shall we wrap it up there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Anne-Marie, for coming along and having a chat with us. And it's definitely been interesting.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I'm very honoured to have been invited. I didn't expect it, but thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. Like I keep saying, it's a strange thing that for every guest that I have on here, I probably ask 10 people. And it's a fine line that I don't want to harass anyone. I don't want to try and force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. But as you say, it feels really nice when you get asked.
Oh yeah,
so
I'm very surprised.
I try to ask quite a lot of people, but without pestering people and having people fall out with me about being pestered to come on. So I'm always just trying to find that balance of
yeah, because I enjoy doing what I do, and I enjoy helping people. And you know, I'm glad that people have gone and done things that they haven't done, but I don't see myself as anything spectacular. I get a bit embarrassed sometimes when people like put things on Facebook, and I just think, oh, you know, but because that's not what I do it for people to say, oh, you're brilliant, you're great. I do it because it's for me, and it feels really good. But if it helps somebody else do something, that's great. But yeah, I do it because I just like to challenge myself and to make the most out of this life that I can, you know, for whatever I like.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I hope I hope people keep doing it and keep enjoying the great countryside while we can.
Thank you for watching and listening to Running Your Stories. Thank you very much to Anne-Marie for coming along and sharing her experience. Please give us a like, give us a rating, give us a follow. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, trying to make ourselves available. Would love to hear your stories. Please get in touch. Let us know what you'd like to talk about. Let us know if you have questions, if there's a particular type of running or type of runner you'd like us to interview. We know lots of people, lots of things in the pipeline, always looking for new stories. And thank you very much to all the wonderful people out there who are listening to the podcast and then dipping back into the back catalogue. What I would say is, if you go back to some of the really early episodes, the 1s, 2s, 3s, still some great stories there, but I would say hopefully the episodes are getting better. We're learning more, getting better at presenting, summarising. So don't be surprised if some of those early episodes are a little wobbly around the edges. Please keep listening. Have a look through the catalogue there and see whose stories interest you and jump into those episodes. So thank you again for listening, and please carry on listening, share this to your friends and get in touch. Thank you.